This is a quick instructional for how to create a virtual hall pass for your classroom, and this particular video is how to do it in Microsoft Forms. So first, you're going to go to office365.com or Outlook or OneDrive. In either case, you want to end up at OneDrive Online. So if you end up on any Microsoft page, you can right away go up to the app drawer and you can select OneDrive. So once you're on OneDrive, you're going to create a folder somewhere in your OneDrive that's called Virtual Hall Passes. And this is where you're going to store any of your hall passes. Now, I'm showing you a way to do the hall pass where you only need one per room, but you're welcome to create separate ones for your classes if you want to. Now, in that folder, once you have it created, you're going to open the folder like this. I'm in demo right now. And we're going to go create new, and we're going to go forms for Excel. And the reason we're creating it from OneDrive is afterwards you'll end up with a virtual Excel document that's online in the cloud, and you don't need to worry about downloading it every time, and it automatically will update with the form. So we're going to click Forms for Excel. You're going to name it. So I'm going to say Virtual Hall Pass Demo, and you're going to click Create. And it should open a new tab and bring you to Forms. So once you're in Microsoft Forms here, you can create a name for it. So Hall Pass, normally I'll put the room number, room 9001. You might want to put a description in here, explain to the students how to do it. You don't always need that there though. And we're ready to get started. So there's three parts to the hall pass that I usually create here. You want to have the period that the student is currently in, and this is from my context of being in a high school. In elementary, you might not want that there. But in a high school, I would usually have period selection. You want to have a selection for a reason, and you want to have a selection saying are they leaving or returning. So we'll start off by saying what period is it, and you can see custom suggestions comes up because I've done this before, but I'm going to hit choice, and on here I'm going to say what period is it, question mark, and then I'm just going to do options for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if you're creating options here, if you hit enter, it'll automatically go to the next line and allow you to create another option. You don't necessarily want an other here because you want the periods to be exact. So I'm going to just leave it at 1 to 5, and I'm going to hit required because I want them to be forced to do this answer. Now, if you're worried about the student line, in the end you're going to end up with a timestamp for when the form was completed, so you don't need to worry too much, but I like having the period just for easy reference, and students usually are fairly accurate with it. Next, we're going to do leaving or returning because I want to have a sign in and a sign out option there. So I'm going to hit add new, I'm going to click choice again, and I'm going to say are you leaving or returning, question mark. And then we'll just make option for leaving, and I'll hit enter, an option for returning. And again, just make sure it's required because you want them to fill out this question. Now, here's where it gets a bit different. We're going to actually create a new section because eventually I want it so if they click on returning, it'll just automatically submit the form, and if they click on leaving, it'll ask them for a reason. But I don't want the reasons to be asked when they're returning. So we're going to hit add new, we're going to go drop down, I'm going to pick section. I'll just say virtual hall pass continued, ... And then in this new section I'm just going to do another choice question. So add new choice, and I'll say reason for leaving. And you can put whatever options you want in here. I'll normally add washroom, I'll normally add water, office, student services. You might want to put locker on there. And I usually will put an other option on here, so if a student has a reason that doesn't quite fit, they'll say what it is. And again, we want this to be required. We want them to need to put a reason in. And now you have this question finished. Now we have it almost done. We have our 3 main questions and we have a section separating the reason. The last thing we're going to do before the form is mostly ready is we're going to add something called branching. So Microsoft Forms and also Google Forms has this ability to add essentially conditions to a question, and it lets you jump to different parts of the form. So I'm going to click on the "Are you leaving or returning?" question, and I'm going to go to the menu in the bottom right, and I'm going to pick Add Branching. It's the bottom option. You're going to see this slightly different screen here, and you'll notice on the questions I have an option to go to beside each question option here now. So for leaving, I'm going to say I want it to go to section 2 because I want them to be asked a reason for leaving. And if they're returning, I don't want a reason, so I'm just going to say go to the end of the form. So now if they select returning, it'll automatically submit the form afterwards when they click next. Now I'm going to hit back, and your form is complete question-wise. The last thing you want to do, you might want to go to theme, pick a theme if you want. I know for the computer labs I tend to pick the hands theme right here. And you're gonna also want to go into settings quickly. So you go top right corner menu, settings, and in here you're gonna select your options. So a couple things. For the purpose of this video, I'm actually going to turn this option off, but for your school, you're going to want to have only people in my organization can respond and record name. What this does is it requires the student to sign in with their school division email, and it'll automatically retrieve the name and email from their account. They don't need to type it in, they just need to log in before they complete the form. For this video, I'm actually going to turn that off just to make it easier for me to demo it afterwards. You want to make sure accept responses is on, and you might want to add a custom thank you. Your thanks for completing the hall pass. And lastly, at the very bottom here, you have allow receipts and allow email notifications. You don't ever want to add receipts. That'll email the student every time they complete it. Or maybe you do. I don't normally want to do that. But you might want to have email notifications after each response. And what that'll do is it'll email you every time the form is completed, so you get a notification outside of just Microsoft Forms. I normally leave that off, but if you want to get instant notifications every time the form's been completed, that's the checkbox you will want. Once you've done that, you're done your settings, your form is complete, and you just need to share it to your students. So you're going to click share, and there's kind of 2 options I normally use on here. So first, I always take a shortened URL and I hit copy. This gives you a link that you can paste into a Word document or paste on your virtual learning environment. So I normally have it on Moodle or Microsoft Teams so they can click it on their devices. And then I'll also normally click on the QR code, so it's the second option here, and I'll download the QR code. And that'll give you a PNG file that you can put into Microsoft Word. And then lastly, what I'll do is I'll go in Microsoft Word and I'll say Virtual Hall Pass, I'll have the QR code, and then I put the link underneath just in case a student can't get the code to scan. And I'll stick that Word document printed off on the wall near the door. So that gives them the option of a QR code or a link, and then they also have the option of going onto Moodle or Microsoft Teams and just clicking the link from there. And that means your form is complete. So lastly, I'll just quickly give you a demo. So if I go into a new tab and I hit paste, here is my form. So you'll see I have what period is it, and I'll have leaving and returning, but I don't see the third question yet. So if I pick third period, for example, and then leaving, you'll see that I have a next button. If I click on return it actually switches to submit because it skips the last question. So if I hit leaving first, hit next, here's the second page, I'm going to get some water and submit. The student's automatically submitted there now. And then afterwards, if they go to the link again or they hit submit another response, we can pick third period again, and this time I'm returning, and I click submit, and it's done. So the branching is a small but a really powerful feature because it lets you separate the reason and only take a reason when they're leaving. And it speeds up the process for the student when they come back to class. Lastly now, you can see in my form page I have 2 responses here, but this isn't exactly the responses you want to use. But if you go back to OneDrive, in your folder you're going to see an Excel sheet, and this is the responses from your form. So if I click on the Excel sheet, you can see here you have all of your form responses, and this is kind of your hall log, just in virtual form now, and it'll automatically update every time a form is submitted. Normally right away I'll hide the first 2 columns because I don't really want start time or the ID. I do want completion time. And then there's email and name, and whether you want that both or one of them, that's up to you. But if you have the organization and record name option, it'll populate the student's email address and name right there. And then you can see period 3, leaving, water, and then you can see a return statement here. So this is a virtual hall pass that works for every period of the day for a full classroom. So it allows you to post a single hall pass for your classroom while still getting information for what period and a backup of what time it was submitted. So that is how to create a virtual hall pass in Microsoft Forms. I hope you enjoy. If you have any questions or you have a different way to go about this or another idea, or you're curious of other ways to use branching, just reach out in the comments and let me know. Have a great day.